This broadcast of the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series is brought to you by Malwar Transport and Assure Action Transport Expert. For oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec, visit www.malwar-transport.ca. And for an expert and professional trucking insurance firm specializing in property and casualty insurance solutions for freight across Quebec, Canada, and the United States, visit www.transportexpert.com. Good evening, folks, and welcome to round 4 of the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. As always, I'm Regan Clark. You join us on our final stop in the United States here at round 4 of the championship before we make the trip across the pond to the United Kingdom. And what better place to bring around the closure of our American leg here in the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series than over in sunny Monterey County, California, right here at the Mazda WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna, Seca. Founded in 1957 in a dry lake basin, Laguna Seca began its life as a venue for sports car racing, holding the Course de Monterey in its inaugural year of operation. That race was won by Pete Lovely, driving a 1956 Ferrari 500 Testarossa. In the years thereafter, Laguna Seca's calendar became increasingly lively, with rounds introduced for Can-Am, Trans Am, IMSA GT, Kart, IndyCar, American Le Mans Series, NASCAR Grand American, the Speed World Challenge, now officially the GT World Challenge America, MotoGP, and many, many more series. And with this explosive rise in popularity, Seca would change its layout to promote closer and more exciting racing, first in 1988 and then again in 1996, where we find our current day layout: 2.238 miles or 3.602 kilometers if you're so inclined, and 11 turns of FIA Grade 2. And with this is going to be a very, very exciting round indeed. I think this holds quite a very special place, I would say, between us two here in the sort of space of TRTN almost, and the Competizione Performance League. And it is because this is the first time we ever came to you live on the Competizione Performance League calendar, was right here in the Mazda WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And that was for the opening round of the Competizione Performance League GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series, which we wrapped up not too long ago. Now is a new era, and of course, as we are quite firmly into this championship now, let's get a look at the championship standings after round 3 at the Circuit of the Americas. Looking into the championship standings, Christian Lebay now leads by 8 points in the championship, ahead of the man on screen at the moment, Byron Forrest, who moves up to second with 72 points, now ahead of a joint third between Richard Cecil and Kevin Quain, both third place with 60 points to spare. 3 points ahead of them then to Timo de Tosto, who rounds out that top 5. He is 6 points up the road from Carl Martel in 6th place with 51 points. Giovanni Battiani now down to 7th with 48 points, ahead of a joint 8th place between Clinton Bourne and Vincent Simard. 44 points between the pair, and then a joint 10th to bring us to the end of the top 10 at the moment for Alex Albert. He finds himself joint 10th with Carl David Bourdreau and Daniel Junior Poulain. It's looking to be a very exciting round of the championship indeed, and getting a look into the calendar as to where we are, of course, with 3 rounds under our belt. We're right at the very end of our American leg before we make the move across the Atlantic Ocean over to a 4-leg of British races on that double sprint format. So the racing will effectively double from what is set to be 4 races to come, is effectively 8. That's going to be a very points-heavy section of the championship. A lot can be won and lost in this very section. We've already seen the stakes be raised quite high here, as we're now 5 minutes in to free practice today, 3 rounds in. What has been a very exciting performance across the board. It's been 3 race wins in a row so far by Christian Lebay, an unstoppable performance to keep him in the lead of the championship. Where can he take things next is the real question on our minds. Getting a look at the schedule for today's event, we find ourselves, as it has been for the last 3 events running now, back to back, the same old, and that's 20 minutes of free practice, of which we are now 5 minutes through, and we'll be coming up on 20 minutes of qualifying and 60 minutes of racing. 1 mandatory pit stop for fuel and tyres. As always, a quick reminder as well that the drop point system is now active, and each driver's single worst result will no longer contribute to their championship standings. This will update, of course, after every race to reflect the current worst or weakest result. I'd just like to remind you of that, as this is still going to be quite a heavy part early doors here in the system's introduction in this championship. Into the pit lane then comes Byron Forrest, and will catch on track with the driver just about to cross the start-finish line to start another flying lap here in free practice. A 1:24.972 was their last lap We're on board here with the 36 of Alex Albert. Now, to reflect on his performance in the last 3 races, we've seen Albert all around the track, really, but he finds himself right now at the back of that top 10. Worst result, 9th place. Best result, 8th. So very consistently towards the back of the top 10 at the moment. But a frequent flyer to the top 10 means good points on the table, and he finds himself not too far off from a joint 8th position. Only 4 points to be precise between himself, Vincent Simard and Clinton Bourne, both of them scrambling for 8th place. So Albert's got great chances in today's round. We'll get on to the discussion of qualifying predictions in about 13 minutes time and take a look around the track to see that after his race ban at round 3, Julio Bahena is once again back onto the circuit here for round 4, hopefully having learned his lesson. The number 18 makes his way back in for round 4. See here, Daniel Junior Poulin currently in 4th overall in this session right now. 125.447 and into the wall after turn 4 there. This is a real killer section. We've seen plenty of cars already struggle in that opening sector. We'll carry on with that in a moment's time. We take a look around here to see the current championship leader, Christian Lebay, trailing on the brakes there of Giovanni Badiali. With these two in competition, it's set to make a very exciting round to follow. And especially considering there's quite a few names on our qualifying data that was taken earlier on today that are not present in today's lineup. So this is quite a few drivers left out of that argument. We'll stay on board here with Giovanni Badiali to give us the unofficial tour of things right here at Laguna Seca. Already on the run down towards turn 1, in towards turn 2. The Andretti hairpin, the first of our major overtaking opportunities. This almost squared off hairpin gives plenty of room for side-by-side action on our run now in towards turn 3. And this is an area that's really been catching a lot of drivers out. You can see they're up on the inside of the curbs there, just how high things get over the right-hand side. Turn 4 now as we make our way through Sector 1 into Sector 2. Still on board at the moment with Giovanni Badiali, fastest of the session so far, 124.312. He makes his way up through turn 5 and into probably the most iconic section of the track coming up here, starting things off on the run uphill towards turn 6. A sort of caved-in left-hander to bring us up to the most iconic section and possibly one of the most iconic sections of tarmac in the history of American motorsports. Turns 7, 8 and 8A at the corkscrew. This is going to be a real killer on the old-fashioned Jaguar. We've seen it go really out of the way of a lot of people's hands over in the modern GT3. So just think about what these drivers are going to be going up against in what are effectively museum article pieces here. Down through turn 10. See a big stab of gravel on the left-hand side, nearly spun Badiali's 998. He's out through turn 11 and down towards the line there. This is a proper roller coaster of a track, unlike the Circuit of the Americas that, by comparison, looks almost as flat as Snetterton. This is going to be a really, really tough one for the drivers today. Verticality of utmost priority. Getting that perfect setup is an absolute must today. You cannot afford compromise in this leg of the championship, especially when things are about to double up for the next 4 rounds coming as we head over to the UK. And getting a look back towards that calendar here whilst we've got the time, let's just get a look at what the road ahead is going to look like. Well, we're starting things off on a very strong note here, folks. The Brands Hatch circuit is second to none, one of the most exciting venues in the UK, and it's following on a double act here. 2 MSV gems as we go from Brands Hatch on November 18th to Donington Park on November 25th. I'm thoroughly looking forward to these next 2 rounds coming up. Snetterton joins them as another MSV circuit. It's an all MSV lineup by the looks of things, with Alton Park rounding things out there for round 8 on the British leg. Then we head to that super special round 9, the first of its kind, a triple stint race over at the Circuit Zolder in Heusden-Zolder, Belgium. The only race of that season set to be in mainland Europe. The rest is entirely focused between the United States of America and Great Britain. Heading back down towards the line and over our brief explanation of the road ahead, we're still on board with Giovanni Badiali. Now, are we looking at a potential improvement out of the Italian after a hiatus of the last couple of rounds? Heading down towards the line, he's up 0.3 of a second. So could there be a little bit of a crack in the potential facade here of a 4-in-a-row victory chance for Christian Lebay? He might have just had his goose cooked with the reintroduction of Giovanni Badiali. Well, let's go look further around the grid to see what things are concerned. What we see down towards the line and actually down through to turn 2, a little bit of a lock on the front left there for Vincent Simard. He has had great progress, as we've mentioned in the last couple of streams here. It's been really, really solid for him so far. He made a bit of a later entry at Watkins Glen in this championship, but has nonetheless wowed expectations and continued to keep the ball rolling. He's out through turn 4, little stab of gravel again. And this is an area he keeps finding trouble in. And he's not alone in that act. A lot of drivers finding trouble down through turn 4. It's that slight touch of gravel is enough to properly upset the balance on the car today. We find 14 drivers present during free practice, leading that charge. Giovanni Badiali, then Richard Cecil second, Clinton Bourne in third. As for Christian Lebay, he's yet to put a time on the charts at all. Whether or not he's sandbagging over the course of free practice today, perhaps leaving drivers a little bit in the dark for what to expect running down into qualifying. Well, we know certainly something they don't, because we've got the data right here that will reveal over the course of qualifying in about 8.5 minutes time. So down towards turn 11. Still watching on board here, Christian Lebay down towards the line. 3 times on the trot, race winner here in the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series, is yet to be dethroned of that mark and goes second fastest. So this is perhaps a little bit of a worry here for the 119 with the reintroduction of Badiali, one of the few drivers seemingly on this grid in this championship capable of dethroning him of that fastest time. He finds himself not by hundredths but by tenths of a second. This is a margin frankly unacceptable in the eyes of the 119, so he'll be looking to quite swiftly pick that back up, as you can see now, for what is the second row here in free practice, divided by only 9 hundredths of a second. That's 90 thousandths or 90 milliseconds. That's between the 5 and 6 of Cecil and Bourne, so very, very close here between the two. Further down the line towards the back of the top 5, Kevin Quain, very frequent flyer now of the top 5 in terms of timings. Looking at his results over the course of this season, I mean, he has yet to finish outside of that top 5, albeit he didn't, I believe, compete in the Circuit of the Americas, sadly, but of the last 2 results we do have, it was a top 5 and a podium. So he's got a pretty solid track record here in the Jaguars, so very, very high hopes for the 607 coming into today's round of the championship. You can see, though, for Alex Albert, where he has been at the back of that top 10 at the moment, best result of the season has been 8th. He does find himself a little further up the order because he is right now in 7th place. We see Byron Forrest having recently crossed the line, now up to 3rd. Now, I want to comment on this because Byron Forrest has been a little bit of a precarious showing in this championship. Right now, finds himself 2nd. He sort of slipped around in the background through that first round, and in the next couple of rounds, he found himself up on the podium quite a few times. I'd say right now, he does find himself in a very precarious spot because he is not that far away from what is currently a decisive championship lead from Christian Lebay. The gap, as it stands right now, is only 8 points. So for Byron Forrest, he does stand upon the chances, especially with the reintroduction of Badiali, to potentially use this as a great opportunity to get that leg up on Lebay and start mitigating that points difference. This could be really make or break today for Forrest, right at the very end of the American chapter, because it's only going to be double run races from here on out until we hit Belgium at round 9. So this is double opportunities coming up. This is his last proper 60-minute race to contend with the 119. If this is the start of things to come here, we'll be first to know of it. Down towards turn 11 goes Byron Forrest. We stay here with him. Down out of turn 11, he's got a great opportunity in today's session. Only 4 tenths away, as a matter of fact, a little less than 4 tenths away from Christian Lebay. Conditions on track right now looking nice and toasty, 24 degrees and 18 ambient. He's in a comfy spot there up in 3rd place. We now see the margin set even further away by Giovanni Badiali. This is a properly reinvigorated performance out of the 998 today. Looking at Badiali now 3 tenths up the road from Christian Lebay. This cannot be good news for the 119 here, who was otherwise looking at 4 race wins in a row, perhaps even 4 pole positions in a row. But it doesn't look to be the case today with Badiali in play. Down through turn 4, you can see trailing right now on the 607 of Kevin Quain. Badiali is on a real mission to make up for that lost round. That DNS that he had in round 2 and that 13th place he ended up picking up at round 3 have not done him any favours. He right now finds him down in 7th place in the championship with 48 points to play with. Bear in mind, only 3 points away from Carl Martel in the position next up. In terms of where he stands from the lead of the championship, it's a whole whopping 32 points right now between himself and the 119, so a lot of time to make up for. And that British chapter coming up at the next couple of rounds, the next 4 rounds to follow from today, are really going to be that staging point here for Badiali. If he can get the pace in today in such short amount of time, there is nothing to say that he cannot dominate in this second coming half of the championship. So it's looking very, very hopeful for him today, as it is for quite a few drivers on today's grid. We see with Christian Lebay now out through the rainy curve at turn 9, down towards turn 10. Can he make up for that 3/10 loss? This is really quite a bizarre sight, as normally we have yet to see Lebay be properly shaken in the Competizione Performance League. Very rare examples exist to prove otherwise. I think looking back towards the GT4 series, it was Anthony Velorio to be one such example, to be able to shake that seemingly unbreakable tie between himself and a race lead. Right now, as we see across the line, no improvement for the 119. Still remains at 311 thousandths of a second. Dead on 3/10 away from him at the moment is Byron Forrest, who seemingly has improved over that gap. And that area as well, just as much as turn 4, it's been turn 10. That's really been screwing with drivers today. Out through turn 10, down towards turn 11. That tiniest little touch on the rear left of any kind of gravel is enough to properly upset the balance. That would have otherwise been a pretty solid lap for Byron Forrest, but that seemingly is his last. As we're 2 minutes and 40 seconds left to go in free practice today, the 824 back into the pit lane. We see in the Twitch chat at the moment, we have 5-Star Esports' team principal. We have Kyle. We also have McToasty17, otherwise Timo de Tosto, in chat as well, saying, why is my power out the night we race on one of my favourite tracks? So it would have otherwise been a fantastic performance today for Timo de Tosto. Sadly, external factors have taken away his opportunities to compete today, and it is probably one of the saddest things to come to face as a competitor in any championship, is to have that choice, that element of choice completely ripped out of your hands. But fortunately, he will be with us in the Twitch chat in spirit for the viewership of tonight's event. You see here, Lebay still stuck at exactly 311 thousandths of a second. He cannot find a thousandth more at this time. Perhaps he's not aiming to. I mean, we have been seeing pretty solid laps day in, day out, or lap in, lap out from the 119. Nothing that seemingly can match the ferocity of that 998 as we get towards the end of free practice today. Seeing with some of the other drivers on the track at this time, also having recently crossed the line, was Daniel Junior Poulon in the number 44. He makes his way up to 9th place now, ahead of Julio Bahena at the back of that top 10. Those two divided by a little under 3/10 of a second. We also see out on track at this time is Vincent Simard. He makes his way down through to turn 6, down towards the corkscrew here. Now let's just stay on board with Simard, because this could be a real topic of discussion in today's race, and it is nailing this area because it is so easy for the car to over-rotate through that starting curve. As you can see, the corner geometry changes so dramatically through there. You have to nail that section. It doesn't matter if you fumble before or fumble after. If you can nail the corkscrew, you can improve. And you can see for Simard, he's been running things very close to the chest here, especially in terms of his brakes. We've seen routine lockup over the front axle. We saw it on the front left. Now we saw it on the front right for the 120. Could that be a pressing issue heading into qualifying in a moment's time, with about 20 minutes to follow from free practice? I've just seen there in chat as well that sadly De Tosto's phone is at 1%, so he'll have to catch us another time. But it was nice for you to join us before your battery gave out, so hopefully we'll see you another time. Down towards the line then goes Daniel Poulon to stay in 9th place at the end of free practice. So almost time for qualifying today here for round 4 of the championship in the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series, powered by Malwa Transport and Assure Action Transport Expert. Get a gander at that mouthful of a title. And heading down towards the line comes the 119 out through turn 9, now into turn 10. This section of the track has been absolutely killer for drivers today. Can we see an improvement before the end of free practice? here for Christian Lebay. He still finds himself waylaid from the leading position of the timing charts today by 311 thousandths of a second down to the line, and he does go fastest, and by then some. 239 thousandths, 2 tenths, 309 thousandths for the 119 right at the very end of free practice today. The 44, the only driver remaining to head to the line here. Whether or not we'll see them invalidate before that point, we're on with the 44 here. Daniel Poulin down through the corkscrew, turn 7, 8 and 8-8, now through the rainy curve coming up at turn 9. This long sweeping left-hander. Then down towards turn 10. He's got this nice, neat and tidy in this area. It's very, very easy to run over those white lines and get sucked in by the gravel pits. Heading down towards turn 11. This has been a very tidy lap so far by Poulin. So this is going to be great staging for the upcoming qualifying session, which we're getting onto in a few seconds time here, folks, as he hits the checkered line at the end of free practice. We're right on to the discussion of qualifying. 20 minutes then against the clock. You can see the pit lane already opening up to a flurry of drivers. You can see rocketing his way out there almost immediately. Believe looking towards it there. That is the 119 of Christian Lebay. He's joined in a almost three abreast convoy of cars there. Leading the charge, though, appears to be that of the 607, that being Kevin Quain, then Lebay, then Forrest. You see here making their way out of the pit lane. We also see Giovanni Battiali and Vincent Simard now power up their cars as they make their way out, following on from Poulin and Cecil. Following behind them, you can see Alex Albert on his way out. We can see here with Byron Forrest, third in line for the first of those flurry of flying laps. But we'll get on board with the leading car of that bunch, the 607 of Kevin Quain, as we begin the discussions of qualifying performance today. Now, you'll note plenty of drivers that we've spoken of already find themselves mysteriously absent from the Simbot data taken earlier on today. Now, getting a look at it, it pictures Christian Lebay at pole position, a 122.822. That's 8 tenths up the road, 8 tenths and 55 thousandths to be precise, between himself and Clinton Bourne, predicted in second place. We now see that Lebay has taken the provisional lead of the qualifying chart, so now we'll catch on board with the 119 on the exit of the corkscrew as he becomes our de facto first driver to set in those flying laps. We'll stay on board with him over the course of this next flying lap coming as we continue that discussion. Kevin Quain predicted in third place, Carl Martel predicted in fourth, Richard Cecil fifth, Alex Albert in sixth, Anthony Cote in seventh, Daniel Poulin in 8th, Vincent Simard in 9th, and Andrew Veldkamp predicted in 10th. Now, mysteriously, no mention of Byron Forrest and no mention of Giovanni Battiali among several others. Those two we would have expected to be in that top 5 discussion. Simbot explaining otherwise, but we'll see exactly where they slot in over the course of these next coming flying laps as we're on board with Christian Lebay, who has just started the first of his flying laps here in round 4. 3 race wins in a row. He has been unstoppable here in Jaguars. In the American leg of the championship as well, he's gone uncontested, already having delivered on a hat-trick. Can he do 4 in a row? I mean, this is the first time to really prove that point, to nail that point home here, that he has so far dominated in this retro class of GT3s. This is his bread and butter, as we've explained over the course of the last couple of live streams. This is something he is almost endemic to in the community. We have seen him more times than not driving classic machines like this Jaguar. The question is, can he sort of rise to the occasion here in Laguna Seca, a track that's already proven to be quite challenging? It took quite a deep dig there at the end of free practice to put himself up and ahead of Battiali. Now, can he consistently stay ahead of that 998 before the end of today's qualifying session? You can see a little bit of a skid there, almost a 50-50 grind for those inclined by skateboarding there over the curbs at turn 10. Now on the exit of turn 11, down towards the line. The first of our times onto the charts then comes from the 119 of Christian Lebay across the line, a 123.420. Then from behind him appears to be Kevin Quain to the line. Doesn't, oh yes, does set a time there. A little bit of a delay, 1.3 seconds off. Byron Forrest then next to the line goes up to third, 1.4 seconds off. So those two divided by about 47 thousandths at the end of their first flying laps. Next to the line comes the number 6, Clinton Bourne, and Richard Cecil from behind him there. Cecil sets the time over Bourne. Fourth for the number 5. Then across the line comes the 99, the 44, the 998, and the 120 to give us all times on the charts there. Battiali second, Simard third, Poulin in 7th. Now as we see Byron Forrest now down to 5th. So it's quite a sizable wedge being formed there inside of that top 5. Vincent Simard, though, immediately up onto the second row. It's looking very, very promising today from that 120 in today's qualifying session. Only 4 minutes in, actually, as it would stand. He's already wowing expectations, but keep a close eye on what is going to be that effective front row fight. That's between Badiali and Labay. That is your two key players in today's qualifying session. Now, it would be naive to not consider what's going on right behind them. There is already the inklings of that three-way fight for third place. Simard, Quain and Forrest, all likely considerations, but we've yet to see a few more times on the charts. Among them, Clinton Bourne across the line a moment ago went Julio Bahena to start their flying lap. The 119 next to the line, 123.424. Labay goes to a 123.310. So 110 thousandths of a second found there. The 607 now up to third ahead of Simard. The 824 coming to the line next. Byron Forrest goes from fifth up to fourth and pushes Simard to the back of that top five. So bit of a double whammy there for the number 120. Number 6 next to the line. Here comes Clinton Bourne. He was predicted second and delivers right off the bat there. 5 minutes in and up to second fastest by just over half a second to Labay's leading time. That is a great turnaround for the number 6. High expectations, and he did not crack under the pressure. Now the question there remains, after a quarter of the session already burned away under the tyres of these cars today, can he hold on to a front row start? I did say before Labay and Badiali would be your likely considerations for that front row fight, but hell if Bourne hasn't given us a lot to talk about right early on in this qualifying session. Next to the line at this time, the 707, Stephen Black on his way to the line. Didn't see much of him over the course of free practice. Now as he's out on track to do some laps here in the qualifying session for round 4 of the championship, he's now just onto the start of his flying lap. From behind him we saw across the line for the number 5, Richard Cecil, still in 8th place. Anthony Cote sets the first of their times. Appears to be a fluke though, 21.6 seconds as we now see an improvement once more by Labay on 123.252 over a 123.310. So in and around the range there of about 60 thousandths of a second, about 600ths there on his last lap just gone. Next to the line comes Bourne. So we've already seen a fantastic start. What can he follow that on with? Sadly, nothing this time around, but let's not rule it out too early on here. Next to the line comes the 44, Daniel Poulon up to 9th as he crosses the line ahead of Alex Albert. The 99 across the line a moment ago. That's Carl Martel, 7th place at the moment. The 998 across the line, and it is an improvement for Badiali, but he remains in 3rd. Getting closer and closer now to that contention of the front row. Clinton Bourne now only 2 tenths away. Also see there a rebuttal by the looks of it here. Having crossed the line a moment ago, that was for Alex Albert. Now 7th place, Martel down to 8th. Number 5 heading to the line next. We get on board with Richard Cecil down through turn 11. Following in his wake there, the 919. That being Anthony Cote. So we'll see if there is an improvement to be found. Likely so, given just how monstrous the size of that gap is. There had to have been something wrong for him earlier on. Now up to 7th for Cecil. Cote down towards the line. From behind him there is the 119 of Labay. Cote across the line. Now to seemingly no improvement. Labay across the line to even more improvements on the horizon. Now nearly a full second up the road from Clinton Bourne. So if there are any naysayers to his opportunity to take 4 pole positions in this championship, look no further. Because now he finds himself 895 thousandths of a second up the road from Clinton Bourne now on the exit of the Andretti hairpin. Badiali not far from the line here, but he's in one of a 3-car tie. The 44 up the road from him there. Further up the road, the 96 of Casey Mal starting their flying laps. Poulon across the line stays in 11th place. From behind them, the 99 of Carl Martel now up to 6th. From behind them, Badiali stays in 3rd. 36 next to the line. Here comes Alex Albert. So this is a constant flow of information we've seen so far over the course of qualifying today. Albert remains 9th after that last lap just gone. The number 120 of Vincent Simard back onto the flying laps here. Started on a high in today's qualifying session. Currently finds himself, as we hit the halfway mark, about 7th place. Not far from an improvement up to 6th. Even in that consideration as well, not very far at all from a consideration of the top 5. You can see how closely maintained it's been there between Martel and Forrest over their most recent flurry of laps. 1.537 to a 1.542. You're looking at a gap around about 5 thousandths of a second between those two, just in and out of the top 5. See here with Byron Forrest starting another flurry of flying laps. The 824 out through turn 11. Behind him, the number 18 of Julio Bahena, currently in 10th place, having relegated Daniel Poulon to 11th. Forrest onto another flurry of flying laps then. The 96 not far from the line here. Casey Mowers, the last of the drivers to set valid flying laps in today's session. And as we hit the session halfway mark, let's see where the 96 plants himself on the charts here. Likely expectations up at 13th, 12th as a matter of fact. Goes above and beyond, and now up and ahead of the 707 of Stephen Black. For the 96, who made his debut last round, this is already early doors signs of improvement for Casey Mowers here in the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. 120 next to the line. Here comes Simard. Down across the line we go, and up to 4th place. So already starting to recuperate some of that magic that he had right early on in today's session. Currently finds himself 9 thousandths of a second, sorry, 11 thousandths of a second. Actually, no, it is 9 thousandths of a second between himself and Clinton Bourne on that second row. So super, super close stuff there. Maybe not to the same extent we're seeing between Martel and Forrest at this time. Actually, as those two actually have since having improved their gap to a full 100th. So it is now, by proxy, the closest gap we have. Is 9 thousandths. I mean, that is really is 1 thousandth of a second. To give some understanding of that in layman's, it's effectively, if you were to blink, it would be about 1,000 of those. Not 1,000, sorry, 100 of those. It would be 100 of those milliseconds. This is 1/100th of the time it would take for you to blink is the gap we're talking here. So ultra razor thin stuff, practically level. But as the data would show it, that's one over the other. Next to the line at this time then appears to be the 919, Anthony Cote, on his way down through to turn 11. You can see that stab of gravel has really been catching him today, as too has it been for plenty of drivers. Cote seemingly just unable to catch a break here. Just under 9 minutes left to go. He starts another flying lap and has yet to have improved on what was otherwise a fluke lap. 21.9 seconds off. Surely not a proper reflection of his current pace. 36 having crossed the line a moment ago. Albert remains 9th. The 119 next to the line. Can there be an improvement found for Christian Lebay, with Giovanni Battiali now in second by 0.3 of a second? Not this time around. Seemingly start to hit the upper limit for what that 119 is capable of. 8.5 minutes left to go. This could get close here, with Battiali exiting the pit lane onto the start of his outlap. That 998 in close pursuit of the 119, trying to learn just about everything he can off of Lebay, but it's come at quite a poor time from there. Lebay pulls to one side and lets Battiali through at turn 4. 96 next to the line, so we saw already a great start for Casey Mowers. What can he do next? As he needs to find, looking at it here, about 0.9 of a second between himself and Poulin. He does find an improvement, now needs to find an additional 0.3 to get himself up to 11th. Those are his challenges right now. Seemingly this is a much more confident start we've seen from Mowers compared to where he was back at the Circuit of the Americas. There was a little bit more light of foot, really, as it were. He was a lot more hesitant as he started to learn the vehicle, and you'll see that with a lot of the drivers making their debut, especially as we head into the British leg of the championship, where we've got double of those races. You'll see these drivers definitely tiptoeing quite a bit. But now that he's got his footing, Mowers is seemingly right underway. Not far from a top 10 in his own respect there. Needs to find, actually, when you look at the gaps between Bahena and Poulin, it is feasibly a case if he can find 3 attempts, he can try to push for 4, and he could get 2 for the price of 1. Looking back up to our story of the top 3, Battiali having since crossed the line, starting another flying lap, already off to a raring start. You can see a little bit of a lock over the front axle for him as he makes his way out through the Andretti hairpin at turn 2. Catch up with him in just a moment's time. Across the line comes the number 6, Clinton Bourne, pursuing the 707 of Stephen Black. Bourne remains in 3rd, seemingly yet to have advanced significantly up from 3rd place. You can see remains just under that 0.9 of a second margin. Still 9 thousandths away from Vincent Simard. This is a position a little too close for comfort for the number 6 on the second row. The 44 next to the line. Here comes Daniel Poulin. He was pushed out of the top 10 by Julio Bahena. Can he find his way back in before the end of today's session? That is the question. 6 minutes left to go. Right now, yet to have found an improvement over the course of that last lap. The number 5 heading to the line. The 919 further up the road. Anthony Cotti now up and ahead of Stephen Black, up to 13th. Richard Cecil across the line, yet to have found an improvement on that last lap. The 36 from behind him remained in ninth. Alex Albert seemingly glued in place down towards the line. Then comes Giovanni Badiali over the course of that lap. Just gone. Sadly to no improvement. The 119 follows in his wake, and he does find improvement, seemingly where we thought it was already on the upper limits. LeBay goes and proves that that is simply a glass ceiling waiting to be smashed. 0.4 of a second between himself now and Giovanni Badiali. That is staggering stuff here. Number 18 across the line. Julio Bahena remains at this time in 10th place. Looking at the gap, though, over the course of that last lap, he now finds himself only 0.03 of a second away from Alex Albert. This is very, very close now for 9th place. When you start carrying that logic, you can also see as well that he's about 90 or so thousandths of a second from Richard Cecil in 8th. So it is going quite a long way to show just how close things are towards the back of that top 10. I think it's quite easier to take a look at the more extreme side of things here in that top 3, where you've got LeBay 0.4 from Badiali, Badiali 0.5 from Bourne. Then everything there in behind it is incredibly close, 9 thousandths of a second between Bourne and Simard. Then further behind him, you get up a little bit to the 0.3 margin between himself and Kevin Quain. Then to Quain and Forrest, it's a factor of, looking at it here, 22 thousandths of a second, with Quain now up to 5th ahead of Byron Forrest since the last time we saw them. And that's an exact 0.3 margin that Forrest has over Richard Cecil. So still very, very tightly packed once you get past that top sort of 3 or top 4 cars. With Julio Bahena having a little bit of struggle there over the course of that last corner. Heading in now in through turn 11, he's not going to find the 3 thousandths, and if he can, it won't seemingly be valid. So his efforts to get around Alex Albert stifled over the course of this lap, but he's got just under 4 minutes left to go, feasibly 3 more laps, so plenty of chances here to make up for that lost time. That's not the best way to start it out through the Andretti hairpin, already into a touch of sand. This is a very bizarre thing. I can hear it just through my headset at the moment. We'll watch here with Daniel Poulin. You might be able to hear it in the microphone very, very faintly. But obviously it is 1:38 in the morning when we record here in the UK. My dog is in the background. I can actually hear her dreaming. It's very loud. It's very, very loud. I daren't stop her, of course. But you might, in case you're wondering what that slightly odd noise is in the background, that would happen to be my dog sleeping on the bed behind. 3 minutes left to go then. Not much time left in it. And funnily enough, as I say that, she stops doing it. So clearly could hear me the whole time. Out through turn 4. Daniel Poulin remains in 12th place, having been forced down now out of 11th by Anthony Cotti. The 919 now up and ahead. Looking ever closer at his chances for a top 10 start. Needs only about, looking here, 32 thousandths of a second to put himself up on Bahena. Crossed the line a moment ago, Byron Forrest leapfrogs ahead of Kevin Quain and ahead of Bourne and Simard for a last lap dash here. Now 1.1 seconds off from a new improvement by LeBay. 1:22.675 to beat. Now over half a second up the road from Giovanni Badiali. I mean, is there nothing that 119 cannot do in qualifying form? It is truly remarkable to see what kind of witchcraft LeBay has brought to the table in this championship. Just when you think he's found the perfect time, he puts a couple thousandths or a couple hundredths, or dare I say a couple tenths on it. It's unfathomable the kind of mad science one can do when given the devices. Out through turn 11 then. Currently in 11th place, the 919 of Anthony Cotti needs 32 thousandths across the line over Bahena. Now has one more lap left to potentially take 10th from the number 18. The 998 down towards the line, needed half a second, a little over half a second. And Badiali's got one more opportunity here to stick it to the 119 of Christian LeBay. After that recent advance up to nearly a full 6/10 margin between himself and the 119. Badiali is not looking to go down without a very good fight here, and this is the staging point for what is going to be a very, very interesting last lap dash out of the 998. We see as well Byron Forrest across the line, and seemingly this time around no improvement to be found. And that is curtains for the 824 as he slows to a crawl here after the exit of turn 1. The number 6 not far away. Clinton Bourne still in the fighting form he needs to push for third place. Not far out by a long shot here, about 122 thousandths of a second between himself and oh no, actually my mistake there. That is a factor of, oh, I'm terrible with nines. Just doing the rough maths here. That's 78,000, so even closer. That's by half of what our original calculation was, nearly. You see there, Scallops subscribed with Prime, so thank you very much there, Scallops in chat, for your subscription with Prime. Any support is greatly appreciated, even just being in the Twitch chat as well. We appreciate everyone who shows up for these events so late at night for us here in the UK. Staying on board here with Clinton Bourne, who, much like us, finds himself a long way from home here. One of the only Australians in the championship. And just like us, he's a long way out in terms of those time zones. I mean, where they're recording at the evening time here, Eastern Standard Time, is very early in the morning here in the UK. I can only imagine what time it is over where he is. The number 6 across the line, but gets ahead of Byron Forrest. So a last lap dash proven successful for Clinton Bourne, while he was denied the chance to go for second place as predicted. Clinton Bourne has done more than enough in today's qualifying session. We've also seen over the course of that last lap for the 998, Giovanni Battiali splits the gap between himself and Mbappe. Can he push even further beyond what we thought the 998 was capable of today? We've already seen miracles over the course of qualifying, out through the corkscrew, down through the rainy curve. The 998 charging for a potential pole position. You can see a little bit of a bump there, and that is the end of the road for the 998. Pangs of frustration as he clatters with the Armco. Crossed the line a moment ago, starting 14th then is Stephen Black, and dare I say it, is that the 58 of Timo Tosto? It is. At the very end of qualifying, surely, with the fear of power outage, is he going to be competing today? I mean, that's going to be a real treat to see him try and fight from the back of the field. We see here with Julio Bahena, 10th at the moment, across the line he goes and stays there, though, despite an improvement right at the very end of qualifying today. This is going to make an interesting round with Timo Tosto suddenly making an appearance here. Could it be a case that perhaps he's a little guest appearance, or is he going to try and walk on the tightrope of potentially suffering a disconnect today? He said that his power was cut. Does he not fear that could potentially happen again? I mean, if he's going for it, then this is going to be really one to watch then. Timo Tosto, despite missing qualifying, looks to be starting round 4 of the championship here in the Competizione Performance League Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. Do just bear with us a moment. We weren't supposed to go into the replays. Fat-fingered the controller there, and that's something you often shouldn't do when you try and access the replays on ACC. I tell you, you touch that, there is like a 50-50 chance it just crashes your game to dashboard. Thank God it didn't do it this time. We will not be making that same mistake. Christian Lebay, though, on pole position after all things said and done, and immediately onto the discussion with no news for us today. We've covered the bulk of the news over the course of the last week of broadcasting here on TRTN, so with a little bit of a drier patch, we just head straight into the thick of it with the discussion of the grid today. Christian Lebay starts on pole position alongside Giovanni Battiali on what was a very close-knit fight at the end of qualifying today. Clinton Bourne up to third place on a last lap dash there ahead of Byron Forrest. Those two having an even closer fight than the men on the front row. The number 6 starts ahead of the number 824. Then rounding out that top 5, Vincent Simard on a great qualifying session. He is joined on that third row in 6th place by Kevin Quain in the 607. Richard Cecil in 7th place with Carl Martel in 8th. Alex Albert in 9th. And Julio Bahena, after that race ban back in the Circuit of the Americas, returns to top 10 form in the number 18. He's ahead of Anthony Corti in 11th, Daniel Poulin in 12th, Casey Miles in 13th on his second race this season, and Stephen Black in 14th. A surprise appearance then, as having missed qualifying, seemingly looking to start then in 15th place. Timo Tosto on what he says is one of his favourite tracks here at the Mazda WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. This could be a very exciting one here, folks. Make no mistake of it. Question therein remains is, what is that start going to look like, especially looking at the form of that top 5. Now, I was going to say the top 4. I think it would be naive not to go for the full 5 here, because you have got Vincent Simard in that mix as well. We've seen it has been continuous improvement since Watkins Glen for the 120. We've been speaking on that quite a few times. In fact, I feel like I'm running myself in circles in the discussion of the 120's performance as well. But now he finds himself staring down the barrel here of what is going to be warfare into the Andretti hairpin with Byron Forrest, Clinton Bourne, Giovanni Badiali and Christian LeBay. Really, anything is possible with these 4 in the mix, and this is probably 4 of the most chaotic drivers to be found in that top 4. Badiali, we've seen to have exceptional starts. I mean, he's an absolute wizard when it comes to getting off of the line first among the fray, despite not qualifying there. We've seen some real bits of magic from him, especially back in GT4. We got quite a few examples of that. And Clinton Bourne being up in 3rd place. This is potentially, looking at it here for Bourne, now looking back through his results this season, as looking towards the back of that top 10, he's 8th for the moment. His best result this season has been 7th place. This is a far cry of where he's expected to be based off of that simple metric alone. Bourne, on what is going to be potentially one of his best results of the season coming up, he finds himself as one of 4 drivers most likely to take that lead, but fighting vehemently for it, starting from pole position. We stay on board here with the 119 of Christian LeBay, who really does, in this sense, at the end of the American leg of this championship, have quite the weight on his shoulders to perform to standard here. Taking us away in a moment's time, the 119 on our run down toward turns 1 and 2. With Badiali already sizing him up, as it were. We've already seen some of the homework being done by that 998 over the course of free practice, over the course of qualifying as well. We've already seen some more unorthodox lines, at least in the terms of getting those tyres warmed up down through the Andretti hairpin, exploring the full length of that corner. It is definitely possible, if not incredibly dangerous, but I think that is the right kind of odds for the 998. I think he's finding that a lot more favourable than the 119. Looking further around the field, so we can see there in 2nd place Badiali. Looking further down the line, Vincent Simard in that top 5. Of course, staring down a very good fight up into the top 4, potentially onto the podium early doors here with Forrest, Bourne, Badiali and LeBay up in front of him. Let's not discount what's going on right behind him. A lot of seasoned veterans now here in the Competizione Performance League. A lot of capable pack fighters are right behind one of the newer drivers on the block here. Simard starts ahead of Quain, Cecil and Martel. All 3 of these drivers having since proven themselves capable talents. Even further down the line, you can see towards the back of the top 10 there, Alex Albert and Julio Bajeno have been some real wild card talents this season. Starting at the back of that field, this is going to be an interesting one for Timo de Tosto. He does not have the advantage of pace alone to put him in any good stead for the start of this race. He can definitely prove it over the course of an hour of racing set to follow here in Laguna Seca, but he is starting really from the ground floor, building from what is seemingly dirt and clay to what could be an empire of a performance. We'll only find out in an hour's time what the 58 is capable of. What a track to be at then, to sort of lay forth that battleground for the final of our American races here in the championship before we make the leap across the pond to Great Britain at the home of the Jaguar XK, the premier car of this season. Back on board then with Christian LeBay as we begin the side-by-side rolling process down through to turn 10. Slowly making their way down towards turn 11. That lineup process underway, leading the charge. And this is really almost palpable pressure you can feel between that top 5 here as we make our way into the last of our 60-minute rounds. And what a track it is to be at here at the Mazda WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca as we begin the roll down towards the line then. 15 cars in all, 7 on one side, 8 on the other, here for the final 60-minute race of the championship here at round 4. We are green and racing here in Laguna Seca. An hour underway and a brilliant start already to be expected from that front row. LeBay holds the inside in through turn 1 and then furthermore into the Andretti hairpin, trying to run things wide, then in for a later apex. Already a great start for Badiali to hold on to position. Looking down the line though, trouble for Byron Forrest as he's caught up in the fray with several drivers. Trying to get a look at that on the replay there, just attempting to piece together what has gone on. on board at the moment with Badiali, as we see now out through turn 4, trying to see what happened there. So there was contact between himself and trying to see here, I believe that, yes, the number 18, that appears to be Julio Bahena. Now, the question therein remains, with Byron Forrest in the top 4, Bahena at the back of the top 10, how the hell did the number 18 make his way up through the order there? Unless we're confusing him for another fluorescent green car. You can see at the back of the top 5 right now, Carl Martel in the 99. We're on board with Badiali, looking up the inside into the corkscrew, right? Early doors enthusiasm as LeBay runs wide in through turn 7, 8 and 8A, and invites in the 998 and the number 6 of Clinton Bourne to come and have a go here. Half a second between the leading pair, and only a second in all between the podium. Yellow flags are out. The 919 Anthony Cote in trouble down at the corkscrew. Seems to have got himself back up and running. But the first of our major casualties we saw was earlier on in the Andretti hairpin. Byron Forrest, one of our top 4. Down towards the Andretti hairpin. We're still on board with Giovanni Badiali, seeing over the course of that last lap, he's now found himself within half a second to the 119. A little bit of an upset there for LeBay down through the corkscrew for the first time. I think he wasn't expecting the 998 to try and put the nose up on him through turn 7. Ultimately elected to run over the gravel just a tad to keep himself out of harm's way, as it were. Now out of turn 4, heading down towards turn 5, you can see more equal distances start to form. In fact, swinging a little bit in favour of that front 2, as opposed to Clinton Bourne, who still clings to a very, very important podium position. Looking further down the road, we can see things really start to bunch up. Timo de Tosto up 3 positions from the race start, as now he sizes his 4th, with Stephen Black right in front of him. Right behind him, though, is Byron Forrest and Kevin Quain. So both of those two who were inside of that top 6 on the first 3 rows of today's race, both find themselves towards the back of the field and now running into madness in and of itself. We see more trouble up the road for the 36. That was for Alex Albert. We see down towards the corkscrew. This could get ugly here. So many drivers, so much traffic, and running wide into the exit of the corkscrew. That was the number 18, Julio Bahena, into the wall. Yellow flags out in sector 2 and 3. It's disaster here in Seca. Not that Timo de Tosto is going to be arguing with it at all, much to the chagrin of his contemporaries. He now finds himself clawing at the chances of a top 10, 5 positions in the span of 2 laps, but not if Byron Forrest has anything to say about it. And believe me, the 824, by the looks of things, even with a damaged nose cone, certainly does. It's side by side between himself and the 58 as we head onto the opening straight once more. Out through turn 1, in towards turn 2 we go. The 824 right up alongside the 58. Byron Forrest up the inside for 1. Could it be up the inside for 2? The 707 nearly closing the nose off there on Byron Forrest. Stephen Black holds on to position at the back of the top 10. Meanwhile, Casey Miles up the road and now chasing Kevin Quain. The 707 runs wide. Byron Forrest swings through to 10th. Playing things a little closer to the chest, knowing that he's not got the opportunity that he found in qualifying. Timo de Tosto now up to 11th, much to the chagrin of Stephen Black. A big snap out of oversteer. Let's just get a quick look at that on the replays there, because that looked, from the distances there, yes, that was self-inflicted on the 707. He made his way down to turn 4, and I think it was the start of oversteer. Yes, and it flicked back in the other direction for Black at this time. 5 minutes in, and casualties through the roof. We also seen as well, in the meantime, Richard Cecil up onto the podium. Will stay on board here and what looks to be the emerging fight for 3rd place, as Clinton Bourne is not letting this one go without a very good fight here. We've seen a bit of a precarious start for the Australian, found himself distanced quite away from his previous contemporary of the 2nd row. Byron Forrest now finds himself with a new challenge in the face of the number 5, Richard Cecil, now up to 3rd place. Making their way down towards turn 3, then into turn 4. And meanwhile, the leading pair, the 119 and the 998, are up the road about 8 tenths from each other, but a whole heaping mile up the road from these two. Cut away from these two just for a moment. We want to take a look towards the back of the field. We see a big crunch of cars here. The 36, the 18, and the 707. Alex Albert, Julio Bahena, and Stephen Black. We've seen earlier on Bahena with a damaged nose cone. Now, we also seen a previous casualty was the number 36 on your screens at the moment, Alex Albert. You see another run off-road there for the 707 as Stephen Black cannot find a break down through turns 3 and 4. Now we see here between Albert and Bahena, these two seemingly caught up in some action earlier on today. We're keeping an eye on those battles inside of the top 5. We stay on board here with Alex Albert. So over the course of that last lap, Lebay slightly faster than Badiali, so the gap continuing to grow. We're watching here with Alex Albert in what appears to be right now his fight of 13th place against Julio Bahena. Down through the rainy curve we go down towards turn 10. Staying close, and you can see those snaps there in the steering. He's wrestling control away from the car. The car is actively trying to get him into trouble. That's the same story carried up the road for the number 18, who has damaged front aero after a myriad of incidents. Nearly 10 minutes in, still far from over. We're getting a look at the standing order right now. It's Lebay from Badiali, Cecil and Bourne to make that top 4. Poulon up to 5th, so a fantastic start to the race so far for the number 44. Carl Martel in 6th place, Vincent Simard down to 7th, Kevin Quain down to 8th, and Byron Forrest down to 9th. Casey Miles up to 10th. Timo de Tosto in hot pursuit, though, in 11th. Anthony Colty 12th, and we're watching here the fight of 13th place. Julio Bahena up in front in the fluorescent yellowish green, number 18, and the number 36 in the magenta and green, that being Alex Albert, down in 14th. Stephen Black rounds out the top 15. We'll have to quickly cut away from these two, just as we catch on board here. It was 2 temps at the last recorded interval between Poulon and Martel, those two having very swiftly swapped hands. The 99 now up to 5th, Poulon down to 6th place. You can see that gap start to close up between himself and Vincent Simard. Then further down the line, we can see clearing a line between each other, Miles and Forrest at the back of that top 10. You can see running wide out through turn 10 as well as Timo de Tosto, just a few seconds out there from being within that top 10 bracket. Bourne closing in on Cecil. We can also see as well Simard closing in on Poulon, getting back on board with Bahena v Albert. We see this potentially come to a head here as they're at their closest point than they've ever been in the course of their singular fight for 13th place. We stay on board with the pair on their way out through turn 1. Now comes turn 2 at the Andretti hairpin. Covering the inside is Bahena, running a little further on the outside to try and get the later of 2 on the apexes for the Andretti hairpin. Is Alex Albert now on his way to turn 3. Keeping an eye on those fights there. Things are getting very, very close. We have seen there a major incident occur for the number 607. Trouble down at turn 5 as Kevin Quain drops time and drops positions. Now out past the 96 of Casey Mallers. Now to the back of the top 10. Those two, by the way, carrying up further from the road. Byron Forrest and Casey Mallers separated by 6 tenths at the last interval. Bourne from Cecil right now separated on a fact. Oh, never mind. We do have an incident here for the number 5. We didn't catch this as we were investigating one from earlier, and we see another incident spill over, this time for Timo de Tosto. So 3 incidents there, all happening at the same time. One that has been of its most impactful has been for that of Richard Cecil. Now drops behind Anthony Colty down to 11th from 3rd in today's race. Clinton Bourne will not be exactly too remorseful over that one. I'm not entirely sure what happened between the two, but something did happen down at the corkscrew. The number 6 now up into 3rd. That really did catch us off guard there. There was a bit of a proverbial flashbang. 3 incidents all happened at the same time there. And since I've only got 2 eyes and 2 set of hands, I'm not an octopus. I just could not be absolutely everywhere. Back on with this fight right now for what has been upgraded to a fight of 12th place. Alex Albert versus Julio Bahena. Further up the road, Richard Cecil now looking to fight with Anthony Colty for 10th place. Keep some scope here on what's going on up on the front row. We can see at the last recorded interval that has now since dropped to within half a second between Badiali and Lebay. Bear in mind, we're coming up on about 10 minutes into today's race. We'll have another 20 before we realistically can come to expect the bulk of our pit stops. Now, we've always gauged that at exactly the 30-minute mark. I'd say give it about 5 minutes either side of it. So 35 or 25 to see the bulk of the pit stops come in on the course of today's race. So these two still very much so in the push phase of their first stint. They are not backing down by a long shot. Speaking of not backing down, we see trouble here for Albert because he didn't back down through the corkscrew. Got a little too early onto the throttle and becomes yet another victim of turns 7 and 8. That seemingly could have been what happened earlier on for Richard Cecil. Now finds himself by his lonesome fighting with Anthony Colty for 10th place. Looking further up the order, we just quickly take a peek here over what's going on the front row. Badiali now with the fastest time. We've seen a disconnect there inside of what appears to be that top 10. We're trying to gauge exactly who that was. I'm not entirely sure. There was a disconnect. We are now down to 14 drivers. I believe... No, it can't be Casey Miles. He's still here. It can't be Coty. He's still here. Well, I do apologise for the one driver that I'm seemingly unable to make out on that charts there. So we had, just checking back through. We'll have to catch up with that in a moment's time. Sorry, that's a little bit of a technical fault from us. Couldn't quite make out who that was that disconnected, but we do have one disconnect over the course of this round now. Hopefully we'll get some information to hand in a moment's time on what exactly just went on. Looking back up then to that first row, I should say, from the perspective of second place, Badiali still on the hunt here for the race lead and only 6/10 out of the last interval. You can see, though, from the cameras, it is much, much closer than what the data alone seems to reveal. On the exit of turn 5, Badiali is in pursuit and is not letting go of his chances here to lead here in the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. Down towards the corkscrew. They're off by their lonesome. These two completely in a league of their own here at round 4 to fight for that race lead. Further down the line has been mostly the survivors of what has been a skirmish in the opening quarter hour of today's race. Clinton Bourne in 3rd place, Carl Markle in 4th now, with Daniel Poulon back up to the top 5. Byron Forrest in 6th, with Kevin Quain 7th, Casey Miles in 8th, Anthony Coty in 9th, Richard Cecil in 10th place. Julio Bahena in 11th, Alex Albert down to 12th, Timo de Tosto down to 13th, or technically up from his start, and Stephen Black in 14th. So it's Simard. It was Vincent Simard. We've just figured out who it was. The number 120 is out of round 4 of the championship. Disaster for Simard. So catching on board with our leading pair here. Now on the perspective of the race leader, Christian Lebay on his way down towards turn 5. In a hot pursuit, though, by 0.4 of a second. You can see right behind him a consistent threat in his chances for 4 race wins on the trot in this championship has been that of Giovanni Badiali down in 2nd place in that royal purple and gold, number 998. Down towards the corkscrew we go, though. You can see just how much time the 998 is able to gain here. Badiali being very, very brave down through turns 7, 8, and 8A. Now on the exit of the rainy curve is looking for the inside down at turn 10. Dare I say it, he could potentially go for it here because on the exit it's contact between himself and LeBay. Out through turn 10, the 119 is turned around, but both of them come to a screeching halt before we hit turn 11, seemingly having let him back out in front. Their gap starts to dwindle. Clinton Bourne has just been given a Deus Ex here because he's on his way to being within touching range of that leading fight. The 120 is back into the session, so Vincent Simard reconnects to round 4. The question therein remains, will he be able to rejoin the grid before the end of today's race? It's been a less than ideal quarter hour for him because it's all come asunder. Well, cutting away from their fight because they're definitely going to pump the brakes on the intensity whilst they continue on their efforts inside of that first stint. We now catch on board with Byron Forrest, who's made a slow but steady procession back up to where he once started this race from. Not far away at this time from being within the top 5, and then that is only one stepping stone on this path back up to 4th place, currently held by the 99 of Carl Markle. Byron Forrest has really been up against it, as so too has plenty of drivers in today's race so far. He was one of the first of those casualties, as we saw in that opening lap skirmish. The 824, 1.3 seconds now away from being within that top 5. Daniel Poulon currently guarding in the 44. He's had a fantastic race, so he's not going to be willing to let this one slide on the 824. Looking further down the road here, we can see a potential fight brewing between Casey Miles and Anthony Coty. The 96 versus the 919 there on the exit of turn 5 on their run up now towards turn 6. We stay on board with the 96 of Miles. Heading down towards the corkscrew. We did say much earlier on in today's broadcast the imminent threat that is present down at the corkscrew, that chance to over-rotate. We've already seen it of a few drivers today. I do not doubt that this is not going to be the last time we see that happen for a lot of people today. We can see in the background Richard Cecil very quickly reeling in this fight for 8th place. Miles v Coty could soon become a three-way fight for the position currently held onto by the 96. Looking back up to that front row, we see that Christian Lebay still keeps at arm's length there. Giovanni Battiali, of course, those two seemingly having pumped their brakes after that first of hopefully a few skirmishes between the two that ended up getting physical down through turn 10. Turned around there. I mean, those two settled it in their own way, and they settled it privately, so unlikely that the stewards will be getting involved. That was something that Battiali pretty much outright owned up to there, owned up to his mistake, and was not willing to let that turn into an opportunity to gain positions. That's fantastic sportsmanship you see between the pair on that front row. Right now, it does put many a question over the future of their fight, because I highly doubt it will get anywhere near as fierce as we've just seen it. Speaking of fierce fights, there's one on the horizon here for the back of that top 5 we're watching on board right now, with Byron Forrest chasing down Daniel Poulon in the 44 up in front as they head down through turn 10. You can see damaged nose cone for the 824. Not that that has stopped the progress here of Byron Forrest. He has been a real trooper over the course of the first 20 minutes of racing, and now he eyes up a chance to return to the top 5. The world's weight has been thrown against him here, and he stood quite steadfast in his efforts to remain in the top 5. You knock him down, but he will get back up. And the 824 not too far away now from being in the top 5. The 44 has really got to put a lot of defensive performance into this one now. The question is, does he choose to exert himself out through this sector here, where it is incredibly dangerous to do so, as you can see the imminent threat of getting swiped across through turn 4. They're side by side on the run down towards turn 5. And does the 44 succeed? Now, it's highly unlikely to. And you can see there Daniel Poulon is no pushover when it comes to these positions. He does see the opportunity to defend, and he does go for it. He doesn't waste any time in that. He's already made his way up to the top 5. And while there has been a lot to have gone on in front of him, he has not exactly just fallen into this opportunity. He has held on to it, and now is his opportunity to prove that firsthand. The 824 clawing at the chances to return to the top 5. And as that continues to mount, we can see arriving from behind him the 607 of Kevin Quain. So now is a two-pronged defensive on Daniel Poulon. He's really got quite the weight on his shoulders here to perform. I'd say with plenty of hopes for him today. Heading down towards turn 11, Byron Forrest sizing a chance at the inside. Poulon's left the space open for him, and he knows he can just carry the outside, get the throttle down, and let physics do the work. It's actually quite clever we're seeing here from Daniel Poulon. He's using the momentum of the car against Byron Forrest. He's letting him get these moves up on the inside. You can see now trying for it down to the Andretti hairpin. Does he find the space to move up on the inside? He's knocked out of commission by the 607. You can see where the vision was coming from. But one thing he failed to factor in this great hypothesis is where was the 607, as he turns out right alongside. Heading down towards turn 2, you can see where the vision was, swept back in, did not expect the 607 to be there. At the same time, the 607 running a little wide in through Andretti. That fight of 5th now seemingly kicks off between Kevin Quain and Byron Forrest. And now we've seen these two on a multitude of occasions fighting for position. We've seen them to be very, very capable of doing so. But there goes the 607 in the background. And the camera's really giving us awful comedic timing in terms of that. Looking back into the replay just very quickly as we see running out through turn 6. We're following with Forrest. And it's just too good. It pans away. That's the 607 in the background. Oh, goodness. I tell you what, fate acts in very cruel ways, and it has acted several times over the course of today, so much so that it deserves an Oscar. Out through turn 11 they go. The 824 from the 44 from the 607. Further behind, though, we can see things kicking off here for the 96. Casey Miles really up against it as on the exit of the rainy curve and now out through turn 10 on the run down towards turn 11. He finds a war on two fronts. The 919 of Coty gives him a bump up the backside out through turn 11. He is not looking to make this an amicable affair here for the endeavours of 8th place. Timo Tosto into the pit lane early doors. They're down to 14th. He started from the back. So realistically, anything now is an improvement. The number 18 of Julio Bahena in. We see up on the inside goes Anthony Coty, potentially following him through as Richard Cecil on Casey Miles. Now as they make their way in towards turn 3. Let's see if we can get on board here with Cecil at the back of this 3-car fight to get a not a bird's eye view, but a front row view, I should say, of the fight up in front. All of this in contention right now for 8th place. Watching with Richard Cecil, he's looking up the road at 9th place. You can see the blue car there, the 919 Anthony Coty representing 8th place. Feasibly right now we are looking at 9th between Cecil and Miles on their way up through turn 6. Now this was an area that caught out the 607 not long ago. You can see exactly where that could happen. You clip the inside curve, but it is a one-way ticket to the gravel on the right-hand side. Now down towards the corkscrew, staying on board with Cecil, watching the fight go up on in front. Casey Miles runs short of his brakes, very nearly puts himself into the wall, and that's an easy breezy 9th place for Richard Cecil on the exit of the corkscrew. Done and dusted. So into the pits, or I should say out of the pits, comes Julio Bahena. I would say, and I'm kind of hoping I'm not proven wrong by this, but it is pretty hard to end up with the stop-go 30-second penalty here in Laguna Seca on the grounds that it is very hard to speed into that pit lane. And hopefully we can try and catch on board with someone on their way into the pits just to prove that point. The 707 moves over for the 119 and now the 998. So Stephen Black finds himself in a very unfortunate spot there. You can see just carving his way through. Barely lost any time in the grand scheme of things. Badiali still in pursuit. Still holds on to that fastest lap of 123.064 for the 998. Looking at where the nearest fights are concerned right now, a little bit of a dark spot of the championship, or a dark spot of this race, as I should say. Right now, Byron Forrest has made himself very well clear of the 44 of Poulin, now up to 5th place and leading by 4.2 seconds in that fight. And there you can see this sort of forming 4-car train. Now, admittedly, one of those cars in there is the 58 of Timo Tosto. He's down in 14th, earliest of the pit lane runners, and trying to hunt down the car further yonder, this 3-car train of Coty, Cecil and Miles. That's Julio Bahena up the road in 13th. So they've got their own fight going on, a little more long-winded than the one right in front of us, of Coty and Cecil, seemingly the next chapter of it. But out through Rainy, a bit of trouble, but even more so for Cecil, as into the wall goes the number 5. We were trying to comment there on the 919 having a spot above her, but I don't think that is an act easily followed for the number 5. Richard Cecil into the wall and into the pits post-haste. You can see here, a short run to the line, but he's got to slow down in order to get around this corner here. Super tight, one of the tightest pit entries we've ever seen, and you can see how close he gets to the tyre wall, especially with how short the run is to his pit lane, or to his pit box, as I should say. Kevin Quain and Richard Cecil into the pits. We've seen the exact reasons for Cecil there. Trouble out through Rainy. That one tiny stab under the curbs can be more than enough to set in stone, set in stone that sort of domino effect to follow. Set in motion, that's what I was thinking of. Stone would, if not, be a little bit contradictory to motion. LeBay into the pit lane then, and that gives Badiali open reign of the race lead for now. He's definitely trying for that undercut strategy we've seen so far, and this is something I picked up on, and I've been talking about this as far back as the Sunday League earlier on this week, and it's been the case that for Christian LeBay, we've seen more and more that move away from later pit stop strategies and in towards earlier pit stop strategies, playing things a little hesitantly at the start to give yourself that long-term benefit in the end. Badiali leads at the near halfway mark. 35 minutes left to go here in round 4 of the championship at Laguna Seca. LeBay on his way out. Anthony Coty overtakes him for 6th place so far, and following not far away is Casey Mashley. I should say, no, that was supposed to be Casey Miles, but he too is in the pit lane as well.
Bear in mind that run out of the pit lane, this is absolutely vital for the timing. You can see what compelled LeBay to do this early on is that exit. He's got to go on a very tight inside line with gravel on either side of it. Very little room for error on his way out of the pit lane. Well, it's one of the shortest pit entries we have in circulation. It's one of the longest pit exits. I still am of the opinion the longest pit in this game is still the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. I really do think that does take a bit of the mick there when it comes to just how obnoxiously long the pit straight is over at Spa. I mean, for those of you who've already seen it, you'll know precisely why that is. You start down at the Grand Prix paddock and make your way all the way down to the GT paddock where you actually get to pit. And then you've got to run all the way up on the inside of Eau Rouge and Raidillon and exit round through to turn 6 on the way onto the Kemmel Straight, more likely than not to be annihilated. Anthony Cotti down towards the line. You can see just how short it is then on that pit entry. Byron Forrest is also in the pit lane alongside him, currently 5th. Those two set to drop a few positions to Alex Albert and Stephen Black, as well as Christian LeBay, currently on the warpath here up and ahead of Timo de Tosto on his way down towards the line. Up to 5th, already back into that charge for the race lead. 33 minutes left to go. What is the call for the 998? He's on his way down through turn 10 and heading down towards the line here. What does he make the choice of? He stays out. Now, what's the call here for Clinton Bourne? He's on the way down towards the Rainy. A few runners in the potential talks of the pit lane here. The 707 was Stephen Black. Doesn't make that choice, but Clinton Bourne, you can see, though, pulls the trigger before Badiali is into the pit lane. Looking to potentially get the strategic jump on Martel and Poulin before the end of this race. See, though, what is the call here? Martel stays out. What does Daniel Junior Poulin do in the number 44 on his way on the exit of Rainy Curve down towards turn 10? Does he make the choice? No. Following similarly in the strategy employed by Badiali, Martel, and should say as well Stephen Black and Alex Albert. He's staying out long here, going for the longer strategy. Now, you wouldn't have expected that on a more corner-intensive track like Laguna Seca, where the tyres are quite easy to burn out. But he has stuck to it, and fair play to him. We can see here a fight on two separate lengths of the race, as it were, with Stephen Black yet to have pitted and Kevin Crane already having pitted. These two find themselves in a precarious spot to fight for 8th place, very nearly replicating the mistakes of the past there. The 607 struggling out through turn 6. Super easy to do so when you consider you go too far on the inside, you hit the curbs and you go flying into the gravel, as we've seen already from the 607 today. If you go too wide, you hit that area of almost net zero grip and run the risk of spinning the car out, which we have also seen today from drivers like Alex Albert. In the exit of the pits then, Clinton Bourne currently being chased out of the pits by Vincent Simard, who I'm delighted to say is back out on track. We'll have to catch up on that in a moment's time. The number 5 in serious trouble on the exit of turn 6, and that is almost exactly the incident we were talking about for Alex Albert. What has happened, he's gone to the far right-hand side of the track, clipped over that area of no grip and spun inward and hit the concrete barriers. So Richard Cecil, now having dropped behind Julio Bahena into 13th place, potentially to drop behind Timo de Tosto before the end of this lap, has serious front end damage. That could be the end of his race today. He's back in temporary green flag conditions on the exit of the Rainy Curve down towards turn 10. You can see the car struggling to make the corner, very nearly caught in the wind there. The 119 into the pits, then immediately comes Richard Cecil. That is a disastrous turn of events for his race today. 31 minutes left to go. Alex Albert still stays out long here. He's not content with coming into the pits too early on here. Carl Martel takes the initiative before him, the 99 into his pit box. Now currently joined by the number 5 of Richard Cecil. So it does leave that ensemble up front, as it were. Badiali and Poulin staying out long here towards the halfway mark of round 4. Neither of them yet having suggested a run into the pit lane, but you can see just how far apart in the race they are now, with Badiali on the lap ahead, making his way down through Andretti. Poulin on the lap behind, making his way to Corkscrew. The number 5 in the pit lane right now. You can see the extent of the damage after that incident for the number 5. Richard Cecil with serious trouble out of turn 6, was in at the concrete walls on the inside. And if they can get that car back up and running, that would take nothing short of a miracle. Joining him in the pit lane now, Daniel Poulon, and the number 44 makes his way in. 29 minutes left to go. Alex Albert on the exit of the Rainy Curve would be next in our line of sight here for considerations of a pit lane run. He stayed out long, as the same has been employed for the 44 and the 998, but he doesn't elect to come in, so he is still staying out long. I think he's waiting now to see what the example is set by the 998 of Badiali, who we see now down through turn 10. And what is the call for Giovanni Badiali after having led this race for a long time now? He's into the pit lane, so now as the requiem now is, has his strategy worked out? Now that he's been given the clean open air ahead of Christian Lebay, does he have that opportunity to come back and fight for the race lead? Right now he's in. Lebay, having just made his way out through turn 4 and his way down towards turn 5, is just over half of the track away. This is a very tense race against time here. Has strategy favoured the 998? Lebay has found himself in traffic over the course of today's race. 28 minutes left to go. He has really not wasted any time. As the seconds start to tick away here, this is really quite a tense state of affairs. Right now, with no current indication of the nearest fights on track, this is one to watch. As now on his way out, Badiali may have just sold an absolute blinder of an overcut here on Christian Lebay, who makes his way down towards turn 11. Bear in mind, Badiali still has to make his run all the way down through the Andretti hairpin. Lebay just onto the start of that opening straight as Badiali makes his way out of the pits and down towards that inside run. A little scrape on the inside there for the 998, but I believe by looks of it here, he's just about nipped this one in the bud. Making his way round the Andretti hairpin, Badiali with a world-class overcut continues to lead past the halfway mark. I don't believe the like, but that was fantastic strategy by the Italian. He finds himself now, you can see the gap up the road there by nearly a whole corner to Christian Lebay down in second place. The call now for Alex Albert. He's stayed out an extra lap here. I think he's now trying to get as much of the advantage he can over drivers at the back of that top 10. I think the drivers he's got his eyes set on to stay ahead of has been Poulon and Quain. Because right now, the moment he comes into the pits, he finds himself at the mercy of Bourne, Martel and Forrest. From 4th down to 6th. .707 is in, so Stephen Black, one of the last drivers to have pitted today. The other two were waiting for Vincent Simard, who for obvious reasons has yet to take his mandatory pit stop because he disconnected halfway into the first stint of this race. We're still waiting to see what that word is for Alex Albert. Surely the time is now for the 36. Heading down towards turn 11. He stays out again, so we are really quite baffled as to how long he's willing to keep this going. He is one of the last drivers left on track yet to have taken a run into the pit lane. You can see with Clinton Bourne not too far away at all, his hopes in holding on to a position higher than even, I'd say, 5th right now are razor thin. Looking around the field to see then where our nearest fights are coming from, we can see a great improvement over the course of today, surfing a lot of the chaos around him. Casey Malles into the top 10. Now getting a look at Malles' progress since his debut last round. Let's see exactly what we're dealing with here. 12th was his last result of the Circuit of the Americas, so this is certainly an improvement to be cited. His first top 10 appearance, potentially rounding the corner then in 25 minutes time. Carl Martel currently holds on to what is projected at a 4th place finish after Alex Albert pits. Bear in mind, 3.3 seconds behind him is Byron Forrest. So, and with that gap slowly, by the looks of it here, starting to wither, it's still massively up in the air for Martel to take home 4th. He could be relegated to the back of that top 5. Bear in mind, this is tantalisingly close once Alex Albert comes into the pits for Byron Forrest to return to where he started this race from. Considering how poorly things went at the start there, he was one of the first casualties in a mass collision down at turn 2. Just to be able to return to where he qualified is a victory in his books. The 99, the only obstacle then left standing in his way. Albert's in. and having already been overtaken by Clinton Bourne, who returns to the podium. We see here with Carl Martel, and in the background there, Byron Forrest looks to soon become the last of our top fives. There you have it, with Albert now out of the top five. Better late than never for a pit lane run. We'll see exactly where he stacks out when he leaves the pit lane. Looking here with Giovanni Baddiali, we are still quite staggered with that overcut strategy. Could we be seeing Baddiali's first win here in Jaguars? Better late than never, seemingly the motto of the day. Down through the corkscrew, the 998 continues his charge. 24 minutes left to go. The gap 2.1, now 2.0 seconds on the exit of the rainy curve. LeBay closing in slowly but surely. But what can he do now that the roles have been flipped between himself and Giovanni Baddiali? Only time will tell. You can see the physical gap between the pair of them. They're out through turn 11, rounding onto lap 25. 24 minutes left to go in round 4. This is going to be quite an exciting fight on our hands. The 36 drops now down to 8th place, potentially to 9th with Casey Miles. Not too far away at all. As we see from the perspective here of Alex Albert, Casey Miles right behind him. The 96 right onto his tail as we make our way down to turn 3. There is Casey Miles over the rear view of Alex Albert. Here on the exit of turn 3, that could be a potential fight on our hands here for 8th place. Albert on brand new tyres that he's got to start bedding in now versus Miles, who pitted way earlier in the 96 and finds himself on already bed-in Pirellis. Gap right now 1.9 seconds between LeBay and Baddiali, fluctuating between the very high ones and very low twos at this time, seemingly the bulk of the time being made up through sectors 1 and 3 for the 119, with Baddiali dominating in the middle. We do have trouble. It was for the 96 down at the corkscrew. Casey Miles in trouble, now drops out of the top 10 down to 11th behind Julio Bahena after trouble down at turns 7 and 8. Seemingly every time we take our eyes off of the corkscrew, someone's spinning through there or someone's having a spot of bother. And today it has caught Miles several times. We saw in a fight earlier on where he very nearly put himself in the wall. That area just seemingly not his strongest point. So 2 potential fights here for the price of 1, or would have been, had it not been for the recent reality here that Carl Martel has now put 3 seconds on Byron Forrest. He was previously predicted to be in that fight pretty soon for 4th place, to return to where he started this race from. That was around 2 seconds. Now it's 5.6, and the chances are looking rather slim. We focus our attention then to that battle on the front row, I should say. From the perspective of the leading car then, Giovanni Baddiali leads here in Laguna Seca after a fantastic overcut strategy. Has kept things very close between himself and LeBay, but now with the roles flipped on their head from the race start. He leads here, but by how much longer being the real question. Knowing that he's losing time in through Sector 1 and Sector 3, he is really prioritising his performance in the middle, trying to strengthen his performance out through Sector 3. But you can see how much time the 119 is gaining here is really a case of damage mitigation, as once he gets back on to Sector 1, he can let the taps loose here on that 5-litre Ilmor V8. And try to keep himself in the lead of this race here. He has done very well so far. Over the course of that last lap, he actually found himself a tad faster than LeBay. We do have another incident here as we've taken our eyes away from the corkscrew once more. Yellow flags are out. The number 5 and the number 120, Vincent Simard and Richard Cecil, both in trouble down at the corkscrew. Really, I think we've got to start like camera focusing turns 7 and 8. We see the 707 and the 607. Kevin Crane and Stephen Black. They're both fine on their run through. Baddiali now next down towards the dreaded drop downhill through the corkscrew. This 998 looking to take things nice and smooth. Silky smooth, as a matter of fact. We see for the 119 potentially heading down through that area right now. Actually, so quick we couldn't even capture it. So now we turn our eyes to the 36 and we nearly capture an incident again. Alex Albert has really had his heart in his throat down through that section multiple times today. Today being one such example. 58 next towards the corkscrew section now, as this seems to be the focus of a lot of the incidents in today's race. 58 perfectly fine through there, 7.6 seconds from Casey Miles. But Timo de Tosto, he wasn't expecting anything out of today's race and wasn't even expecting to compete, let alone be on the grid. Right now to find himself in 12th place, nothing to scoff at, 3 positions amidst the chaos provided here at Laguna Seca. The 824 next down toward the dreaded corkscrew. Silky smooth there for Byron Forrest. No troubles there whatsoever. But it's almost the concept of sod's law. It's the moment you stop preparing to cover the corkscrews when something of note happens down at the corkscrew. We see here a massive bunch up of cars toward the back of that top 10. We see Casey Miles, Julio Bahena and Anthony Cote reunited in a 3-way fight for 9th place. Cote leads ahead of Bahena. Miles not letting go of his chances to appear in the top 10. It has been continuous improvement for the 96. He's found his footing over the circuit of the Americas and is much, much livelier in this round. Case in point that he's now taken the charge here to Julio Bahena, who missed out on his opportunities to compete in round 3 over a race ban. So stay on board the man in the middle here between himself, Cote and Miles. Julio Bahena in 10th place. Overall fighting for 9th, may have to start considering his odds to defend against Casey Miles, who's much closer to him than he is to Cote. You see a big slide over through the gravel. That's only going to continue to compromise his efforts to hold on to 10th place. So we are starting to look at more of a defensive fight on the exit of turn 11, but that's been undone almost immediately as Miles runs into the same patch of gravel carried on by the 2 in front. We see Vincent Simard giving a little bit of grief here to Anthony Cote, unlapping himself from the 9th place, number 919, down through to turn 2. Julio Bahena has the opportunity here to leverage some of the shenanigans from the 120. To try and get himself ever closer, but now you can see he's in the most awkward position possible down through turns 3 and 4. He's wedged in between these 2 cars, warring for 9th place. Bahena won't be happy with this, not one bit, with Simard into the gravel very nearly gets onto the back end of that number 18. That could have ended in disaster. Down towards turn 5 we go, still on board with Bahena as he chases down Cote. Casey Miles, having now dropped nearly a second and a half to Bahena, is now the story of 2 here in the defensive fight for Cote for 9th place, in the attack here for Bahena. Down towards the corkscrew. Just to bring to note as well, very, very close fight seemingly in the background here. Whether or not for position entirely, this is for cars on completely different lengths of the race than 12th. 3rd and 14th, believe that or not. Back on board then, seemingly with looking for him at this time, Julio Bahena, in his continued efforts to get around Anthony Cote. This is for the fight of 9th place here at round 4 of the championship, down towards turn 2 on the exit of turn 1, down towards the Andretti hairpin, the 919 against the 18. 16.5 minutes left to go, nearly 3/4 of an hour into today's race. A little bit of some upset on the exit of turn 2 for Bahena, drops him out of that fight for 9th for now as he continues his efforts around sector 1. We'll catch up with him in a little while's time. Looking further around the field here to see what the last laps were concerned with. Carl Martel still faster than Byron Forrest. Now we must consider as well that Forrest has had to contend with quite a lot, namely that major bit of nose damage there, the front aero not working at 100% efficiency for the 824. Pretty much from the word go, he's incurred that damage on the opening lap where he was caught up in quite the fray down at turn 2. Somehow having pulled in 2 seconds now to Carl Martel up in 4th place. Now that gap was up at its highest at 5.6 seconds the last time we checked it. Now it has since dropped beneath 3 seconds in the time we've been observing. So it's been quite a heavy fluctuation here. Normally we see fluctuations in the span of a few tenths of a second, maybe to within a half a second, but let alone have we seen it to multiple seconds unless something seriously bad has happened. Seemingly, what we can piece together has been that Byron Forrest clearly on the pursuit of the 99 ran into some kind of problem, put him 2 seconds down the road, and now this is the recovery phase of the 824. It just simply would defy any kind of logic to suggest he would drop 2 seconds out of thin air without knowing why. See here with Anthony Cotti defending for 9th place from Julio Bahena. That fight having since reignited, so now we catch back on board with the attacking of 2 perspectives here. The number 18 in that fight for 9th place, Julio Bahena in pursuit once more. 7/10 of a second then away from Anthony Cotti, up in 9th place. Out through turn 5 we go. This area, the track coming up, turn 6, serious spot of contention over the course of the last 45 minutes of racing. No trouble this time around. And as we mentioned before, we are beset by a little bit of sod's law today. The moment we stop paying attention to turns 6, 7 and 8 from this middle sector of the track is the moment something of serious note happens. And thank goodness we did stay on board, because we did just see... Now, I'm not entirely sure what he was thinking of there down at the rainy curve. Surely one has to realise when it banks that hard in towards a left-hand turn, there's simply no space to look for at the inside unless your opponent is all the way in the gravel. Down through turn 11, the suggestion already having been made there by Bahena in his efforts to try and get up on the inside of Cotti. Now this could be his best opportunity, is heading back onto the opening straight in the slipstream. Now up through turn 1, in towards turn 2. Is he close enough, being the real question? Heading down towards the Andretti hairpin. The answer right now being no. You can see jumping for the inside is Anthony Cotti, defending early for what is otherwise a V-shaped line through Andretti, ultimately having compromised himself as it's brought him ever closer to Bahena down through turns 3 and 4. Now the chances of him overcooking the tyres are very high in this area of the track. He's already played quite aggressively down through turns 2 and 3. Now on the exit of turn 4 towards turn 5, it's Bahena that ended up being caught out as he drops now to over half a second away. Both of these drivers seemingly struggle to get even 80, if not 70% efficiency out of these Jaguars. Really struggling with the old-fashioned tech brought in by the Jaguar XK. I don't believe I've ever seen drivers struggle this hard to get the car to grip up. Seemingly those are the conditions brought in by a track like Laguna Seca. It's so vertical that the aero can do very little to save you. There's a place where you really do have to rely on a little bit of good old-fashioned hopes and prayers to keep you on track. Mechanical grip can barely assist you. Aero can barely assist you. I mean, at this point, God can barely assist you to keep the car within the white lines. It is really quite a tough track here, Seca. Love it or hate it. It is some of the bliss brought forth here in Monterey County. Looking here at another potential fight on the climb. Byron Forrest currently a second out from Karl Martel. So this is quite recently developed. We were expecting it to be a lot earlier, but then they were waylaid by over 5 seconds. Byron Forrest now firmly cements himself in the negotiations for 4th place. Now heading into lap 33, we're on board with Karl Martel in his defence of 4th place. So right now, as it stands, 2 fights for the price of 1. Bahena v Cotti and Martel v Forrest. Out through turn 3, in towards turn 4. Karl Martel defending for 4th place. Then looking further down the line, we have Julio Bahena attacking Anthony Cotti. They're down through the corkscrew. No trouble between them this time around. A little bit wide on the exit of turn 8A there for Bahena. Back on board with Forrest v Martel there on the exit of turn 5. About to enter the very same complex we've just seen Cotti and Bahena through. In through turn 6 we go. Forrest in pursuit. Minutes left to go. We'll get a full rundown of the order in a moment's time, but I get the impressions right now that it is set to change. Those two through corkscrew with very little issues in the looking of things. Out through turn 1, in towards turn 2, back on with Bahena v Cotti, down towards the Andretti hairpin. You can see what Cotti does here. He does this almost V-shaped line to try and carry more momentum on his run into turn 3, and it is actually starting to work quite positively in his favour, especially with tyre grip starting to decline quite rapidly for these Jaguars. They've been notoriously bad on the tyres so far. Very few drivers have been able to coax life out of them. Really, that's been one of the major dividing factors we see between the top 5 and pretty much the rest of the grid at large. There's been drivers capable of keeping the tyres happy. And especially at a track like Seca, where it is absolutely paramount you do so. we've seen where its value comes from, because so many drivers that otherwise could have been top 5 contenders on any other day have struggled here in Seca to keep their car from going in at the wall. Ten minutes left to go. As it stands, we're flickering between two fights here, between Karl Martel and Byron Forrest for 4th place, and between Julio Bahena and Anthony Cote for what seemed to be 9th place. We see trouble there for, that was Stephen Black in the 707 on the exit of the rainy curves. He's about to find himself right up in the face of a fight here with the 120. Vincent Simard up and ahead of him now, unlapping himself from Stephen Black. From behind him, we see one of the podium sitters. Actually, sorry, behind him, we see not one of the podium sitters, but as a matter of fact, in 11th place is Casey Mal's. Got him mixed up there for a moment with Clinton Bourne, who already got his way around the 707. You see here potential side-by-side action between Bahena and Cote. Now on the exit of turn 3 and towards turn 4, looking up the inside, Julio Bahena has a chance here to move up into 9th place. He's up the inside on the 919. Anthony Cote hits the gravel, very nearly hits the wall, but he keeps it from it, ultimately costing him 9th place. Bahena up to 9th. So as it stands, Giovanni Badiali leads here in Laguna Seca. 8 minutes left to go. The gap now up to 2.6 seconds between himself and Christian LeBay. Clinton Bourne in 3rd place. Karl Martel 4th. Byron Forrest in 5th. Daniel Poulin in 6th. Kevin Quain in 7th. Alex Albert 8th. And we've just seen there Julio Bahena up to 9th. And Anthony Cote down to the back of the top 10. Casey Miles in 11th. Timo de Tosto in 12th. Stephen Black in 13th. Richard Cecil 14th. Vincent Simard in 15th. So we cut from one fight to another here. Byron Forrest still in pursuit of Karl Martel. Now that gap having since opened up from where it says on the charts they're 6/10. Definitely a lot more than meets the eye. They're 7/10 at the last interval. Even more confounded trouble for the 707 of Black, is now making his way down through the corkscrew. Even more trouble for Stephen Black in 13th place. Very nearly was some contact there between the 58 and the 120. That got dangerously thin. The margin between those two there. Watching with Karl Martel in this fight of 4th place. These two have kept things very, very close-winded in their efforts over the course of the last couple of laps. But will it come to a head in the next 7.5 minutes being the real question? We're on board with the 99 of Karl Martel. A brand new coat of paint there, this bright green. Almost eerily reminiscent of that in the number 18, another bright green car, more of a yellowish hue if you really want to be pedantic about it. That would be Julio Bahena. Seeing the high-vis green becoming a bit of a trend here. Yellow flags out though, you can make certain of that colour. The 44 in trouble, that's Daniel Poulin out between turns 9, 10 and 11. That's since having cleared to a green flag. Cut back with these two in a moment's time. We take a look around the field to see that Christian LeBay is trying his dearest to close in here on Giovanni Badiali, but he may have just been met his match, really. May have just met his match in the form of Badiali. As now that gap continues to slowly climb away from the 119. We could be seeing the first of a victory here for Giovanni Badiali in the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series. And that is going to push him way back up into the fight for the championship at large. Right now finds himself in 7th place after a DNS in round 2 and 13th at the Circuit of the Americas. One hell of a way to turn things around right now. Could be coming up in short suit in 6.5 minutes for Giovanni Badiali. Looking here, Anthony Cote, having since been passed up for 9th place by Julio Bahena, now finds himself struggling ever more for tyre grip, as we've just seen there through turn 3. Now through turn 4, skates eerily close to the gravel on the left-hand side. That could have spelt disaster for him. And hoping that it does, down in 11th place would be Timo de Tosto to be within his chances to get up to 10th place. See, most recently, if I take a look around the field here, Casey Miles has come into the pit lane. Timo de Tosto, that explains his move up to 10th place. And we just got a word there from Casey Miles as to why that was. Fueling issues. So he did not get the fuel calibrated correctly for the car. Went into this race today with not enough fuel to feed that 5-litre Jaguar AJ-V8. It is quite a thirsty engine, of course. 5 litres naturally aspirated, very little in the way of any kind of assistance or modern sensibilities. This is an engine that's been kicking around the block here since 1996. Oh my goodness, there for the 120 of Vincent Simard. That's a code brown out through the rainy curve. Very nearly got taken to the ICU by the 58 of Timo de Tosto. Sure, both of them there not particularly happy with how close that got. Out through turn 11, Simard still yet to have taken his pit lane run. Not that I think it necessarily matters for him now, as he's several laps down the road. Adamant to see the checkered flag. He'll take the penalty. Looking quickly back on with what we were seeing there make its way through the incident for Simard is Carl Martel and Byron Forrest. Those two still divided by less than a second as one of the closest fights on track. They could be carrying this weight all the way to the end of today's race. A little bit of a tuck out there through turn 3. Runs out wide, then into turn 4. Carl Martel runs out wide a second time on the trot there, kicking up a little bit of dust in the face of the 824. Now, this could be the early telltale signs that his tyres are overheating, and this could allow the 824 an easier path up the inside. The 607, the next casualty, this time between turns 10 and 11. Kevin Quain in serious trouble. So Alex Albert moves up to 7th place. Julio Bahena is not too far from an extra position here. He's already taken 9th from Anthony Cotti. Now 5.6 seconds and potentially closing to Kevin Quain. Another big stab out into the gravel there. This is not the signs of confidence that Martel needs out of his car right now. Evidently struggling for any capacity to grip up on the road here against the FIA Grade 2 tarmac. Jaguar simply cannot give any more. Out through turn 1 into turn 2. Byron Forrest closing in at a rate of knots here. We are looking at a fight for 4th place on our hands. Byron Forrest potentially looking to return back up to where he started all of this from. This is one of the most important fights for him here to try and mitigate as much damage that has been dealt to him over the course of that first lap. If he can round things out from where he started, that is a victory in his books. Out through turn 4 we go then. Martel really got quite the weight on his shoulders now. Matter of fact, cutting away from Martel very quickly. I want to try and get the view as we see temporary there issues for the 96 of Casey Malles. We want to get on board with the attacking point of view in this fight. Byron Forrest, we've been watching plenty of defending point of views in this fight for 4th place. Let's get word from mouth here, the 824. Byron Forrest in the attack for 4th place. You can see trouble there kicking off for the 99 of Carl Martel. So early doors swung open there for a chance at 4th place, and taking that leap almost immediately is Byron Forrest. So over as soon as it started there. The 99 now down 1.8 seconds from Forrest with effectively 2 more laps left to go in today's race. Byron Forrest has just found his leap to 4th. And another victim claimed by the corkscrew. We seemingly just cannot find enough on this extensive list of drivers now, having since found their match down at turns 7 and 8. See here for the number 18 of Julio Bahena, now having since dropped back behind Anthony Cotti. There was some kind of issue earlier down the line for Bahena. Now finds himself right back behind the 919 for round 2 of their fight. Question is, now clearly frustrated by whatever did happen for him earlier down the line, is Bahena going to be throwing caution to the wind, knowing time is growing very, very thin for him here in Laguna Seca. Watching with these two, a fantastic exit there for the number 18. Keeps him very close in the slipstream to the 919. So as we make our way up over the crest at turn 1, still looking for the inside. Almost cuts across the pit lane entry there, or pit lane exit, I should say. The number 18 of Bahena runs things out wide for a slightly later apex out through turn 2 at the Andretti hairpin. Now out through turn 3, still right with Anthony Cotti, but we'll have to cut away from them for just a moment here. We try and catch on board with the race leader heading down towards the line, seemingly with enough time for one more lap here in Laguna Seca. You can see with present company, 2.2 seconds and quickly closing. LeBay could catch, but it's going to take a real wing and a prayer to upset the balance of what has been unshakable performance by the 998. We'll catch up with them in a moment's time. Back on board with our pressing fight of 9th place here. Bahena versus Coty on their way on the exit of turn 6 up towards turn 7, holding the inside. So it's going to be quite ambitious for Bahena to hold his stead of 9th place out into the corkscrew. You can see stepping out under his brakes, the 919 of Anthony Coty simply cannot find any more grip, and that's really gone quite sourly for him, as now back up to 9th goes Julio Bahena. Last-ditched effort here. They round their way toward turns 10 and 11 onto their final lap. I'd say this is far from over. Getting a look over the rear view here, we've seen that of the two, the 919 for the most part has had the better on 2 for the exits out of turn 11. Seemingly this time around not the case. Once he's got fresh air in his lungs, Julio Bahena has been able to do wonders in that number 18. Looking up the inside, a little bit of a brake clock. Avoided crisis there, the 919. We'll have to see how their saga ends in a moment's time, because we're about to see how this round ends. And following on here with Giovanni Battiali, this is really quite a special moment for the 998 as he makes his way down towards turn 11, following in his trails very nearly into the gravel. Went the 119 of Christian LeBay, as having done plenty enough down towards the line then. The checkered flag awaits the arrival of Giovanni Battiali, who wins in Laguna Seca. The first driver besides Christian LeBay to take a win here in the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series, and it has taken both strategy and pace to dethrone that 119. A royal effort for the 998 of Battiali. What a drive. You can see joining him there on the podium procession, the 119, a disgruntled LeBay, but he has done absolutely everything he could. Strategy, though, just not on his side today. Very, very clever today from the 998. Absolute witchcraft from these two in today's race, in a world of their own. Looking down towards the line, Clinton Bourne not far from the line as we speak, but let's quickly catch on board here. The number 18 up and ahead of Anthony Coty, and it stays that way as they make their way down towards the line. A fabled saga between these two. Bahena takes 9th, Coty takes 10th. Bourne down towards the line though, and what a special moment it is for him. His best result this season in Jaguars. 3rd place for the Australian across the line here in Laguna Seca. Byron Forrest returns to 4th after long last. Ends where he started, but I'm sure that has got to be quite a sweet feeling for him today. Carl Martel 5th, Daniel Poulin in 6th, Alex Albert 7th, Kevin Quinn in 8th, Julio Bahena 9th, Anthony Coty 10th, Timo de Tosto 11th, Casey Miles in 12th, Stephen Black in 13th, Richard Cecil in 14th, and Vincent Simard in 15th. Your race winner today, Giovanni Battiali, in the number 998. What a drive by the Italian. You see joining him there on the seemingly what would have been the podium there, having since moved into the pit lane, the 119 of LeBay. You see behind him the 919 of Anthony Coty in the foreground. You can see Alex Albert in 7th place. But what a drive. Properly solid stuff from Battiali. What a way to turn his results around as well. Looking back through those results, 13th at the Circuit of the Americas, a DNS for round 2 of the championship. Now onto the top step of the podium. A properly solid performance there by Battiali today. That's all from us here on TRTN. Looking into where we'll be next on the calendar as we now bring to a close our American chapter of the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series here in Laguna Seca. We'll be heading across the Atlantic for next week at Brands Hatch down in Kent, England, for the first of our double sprint races. That'll be the trend carrying from rounds 5, 6, 7 and 8. Byron Forrest, easy driver of the day there, says Jason Bush in chat. I'm definitely inclined to agree. That was a proper trooper drive from the 824 to put himself back up in 4th place after how things panned out on the opening lap. I'd be remiss to say any other choices exist in this roster right now. Back onto that discussion of the calendar, we'll be heading to Brands Hatch for the first of our double sprints. Then from there on out, it's Donington, Snetterton and Alton in the British chapter. And then for the final round coming up on December 16th, that'll be December 17th for us here in the UK, very early in the morning. It's the first of its kind, a triple stint race. 3 30-minute races coming up in Zolder at the season finale. But next coming up, Brands Hatch on November 18th. Do thoroughly look forward to that. That's all from us here on TRTN. A very well done then to Giovanni Battiali. as our race winner. Very well done to our podium sitters, Christian LeBay and Clinton Bourne. And well done to our driver of the day, Byron Forrest, in the 824. That's all from us. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.